Job, the book of Job introduces him to having been a man so perfect, a man faithful, and a man who was upright. That is Job chapter 1. We still don't know what chapter 2 and the subsequent chapters will hold. Well, we come to realize that this introduction of Job in chapter 1 itself was a definition that was prompted by God. I mean, God had defined Job and then made the writer of this book, because Job was one of the oldest books itself, to describe Job how God perceived Job, not how the writer or the author of this book perceived Job. So while Job was perceived by God to be a right, upright man and perfect man, then the controversy now comes in. When the very God who saw Job to be upright, perfect, and the man who believed in him meets Satan in a discussion that Job is absolutely not aware of. In the book of Job, chapter 1, verses 6, an introduction is brought to us when Satan attends a meeting of the sons of God. We don't know what the meeting was all about. All the same, we don't know what the meeting was all about. All the same, they met somewhere and they discussed about Job. Satan was given the mandate now in Job's life. This very first time, if you read with me in chapter 8, in chapter 1, verses 8, and sorry, chapter 1, verses 8, and the Lord said unto Satan, Hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in earth, a perfect and an upright man, one that feareth God and escheweth evil? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, Doth Job fear God for naught? Hast not thou made an hedge about him and about his house and about all that he hath on every side? And thou hast blessed the work of his hands, and his substance is increased in the land. Let us see. The first version of Satan to Job is on wealth. Listen, Satan makes God to see, one of the funny things with Satan, even from the very onset, the first discussion that Satan held with Eve, Satan doesn't always come with conclusions. Satan comes, we call them uh, these questions, which we call them in Kiswahili swali balaha, rhetorical questions. The questions that really, if you look at them, they don't deserve an answer. And then if someone asks you a rhetoric question that, Pastor Romeo, are you not married? Or Pastor Romeo, so you are not having any child? You first really have to think, because the truth is, yes, I am not married. Yes, I don't have a child, but must he shout about it? At least this person must be having some information about you. So that is how Satan went to Eve. And so Satan comes to God. That is it true that Job fears you? Satan as well knows that Job fears God, but then plays a drama that God, he only fears you because of wealth. Now God gives Satan the mandate over Job and his wealth. Satan begins the thing so dramatically, and in fact, when sometimes troubles come to us, they will come in an organized series. By the way, troubles do not just come as confused as you really think. In fact, troubles can realign themselves in an order that success will really not. Success can sometimes be confusing. You find that when you are applying for a job, like I saw our friends had prayer requests for jobs, You really apply for a job and you realize that when you are a teacher, somebody girls has invited you for an interview on the same day, Orero boys are the same day, Alliance on the same day. So you are really confused. Where do I really go? So that at least in the end you miss one and then you really miss the all of it. But troubles will never miss any single point. You'll really find that they don't just strike at once. They strike in a series. It's the very day that you've lost your dad, then all of a sudden you find that you are really frustrated in relationship, and that other side you really find that you have just lost your money in business, just after them. So Satan organized in a way that Job's children came last, so that Job will really be convinced that if you have said that my sheep and my flock has disappeared in the field, it's all right. I will get another more flock, and then I will really make them to multiply fast, and I will be a rich man in a span. Not until the last messenger came and said, we were with your children. So and so, we know all the story in the book of First Job, all the way from chapter 13 to chapter 17. And then the children died. So, when Job looked at the messenger, Job was like, really? I really don't have problems with the messengers. I have problem with my flock. I have problem with my children. All the 10 children, 7 boys and 3 girls were down. That's not my point for today. Job arose and said, naked I came, naked I will go. That was so easy to say, actually, according to Satan. Because, well, we all know we came naked in this world, and naked we will go. It's all right. That is not still my interest for today. Now, Satan went again in another series that it is God who approaches Satan in every discussion, not Satan approaching God. So this second time, again there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord. And Satan also came. And the Lord said, so it is God who first approaches. Sometimes God does this thing so unique that God can really approach our enemies for our afflictions. That is the first question that I really ask myself. Why can God really go to Satan just for Satan to bring affliction in my life? Just for Satan to come and toss my academic life? Just for Satan to come and toss my relationship, my job, my family, and my hustles, and every other thing that I really want? I think sometimes it is me failing, yet it is Satan failing, and Satan is not failing by his own mandates, but by mandates of God himself. And then definitely, what does God want by bringing all this to us? And then, now this time, Satan brings it so nice. And the Lord said to Satan, hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him on earth, a perfect and upright man? This time the discussion was centered on confirmation and affirmation, not on the point of doubts, because God was confirming to Satan that yes, the first time you say that Job loves me because of wealth, because of money, because of every other thing, perhaps if their money was, of course it wasn't during that time, but wealth and all the worldly riches that Job really had, then you tried him, and the only thing that chapter 1 concludes with is Job arose and said, naked I came, naked I will go. The Lord has given, the Lord has taken. Glory be to God. So you thought he will betray me? He hasn't. And then this time, Satan brings a unique perspective that now brings us to the climax of the Lord. King. Yes, all that a man hath will he give for his life. Now, what could have prompted Satan to mean skin for skin? Always, to those who have always had their partners, We are always being told in, this life skill classes that sometimes we call them condoms, or this preventive, whichever the things, in life skill classes we mention things the way they are. So don't crucify me after this that I am an evil pastor. Oh yes, I am evil, but please, for this Sabbath you will forgive me. So you're told that you use those condoms and protections. Then you hear people say, we just want it skin for skin, raw the way it is. And then you are being told that if you do that, you'll get STIs, you'll get HIV/AIDS, you'll get what, a lot of diseases and infections, which are now very common. And when you are talking to high school kids, they tell you, no, it is the skin for skin, which is sweet. And they are still at the peak of life to try to test things. And really, when we speak of skin to skin, that's what the first thing we might really be thinking. But why does it mean skin for skin? Well, skin for skin means a direct stimuli on the largest organ in the body. A direct stimuli will means that an instant impulse, to biologists will say, a simple reflex action on the largest organ. And therefore, when I say I want to prick your skin to skin, it does not really mean that my skin has to touch your skin, but the object that I will bring for the stimuli must bring an impulse that will really have to run first to your central nervous system, which is the brain, and you really know that this is a pain from a thorn, this is a pain from fire, this is a pain from a slap, this is a pain from whichever the thing. So at least a skin for skin must be having a stimuli. That's the first thing. And then another thing, a skin for skin must not really be pain. It can sometimes be excitement and pleasure. Because if the skin is an organ, and therefore it can receive any stimulus, and then it transmits it through the dendrites, dendrons, all the way up to the central nervous system, which is the brain, which will therefore interpret it when it is pain, or whichever the thing in the thalamus, and the pleasure will say, this is sweet, this is enjoyable, this is this and this, because it is skin for skin. All the same, if it is about temperature, in the central nervous system, the part of the brain called hypothalamus will really detect that now it is cold, because the skin has sensed that it is cold. All the same, it is the skin for skin stimuli. And therefore, in this instant, Satan did not mean that his skin, his own skin, as Satan, will really touch Job's skin. But Satan knew very well that in matter skin, he is so skilled that at least he will ensure that he can at least kill anybody, even without touching the person with his own skin. Well, not that. And then Satan thought, well, that Job's wife at first did not talk about anything when the wealth went and when all the children went. Perhaps if she did, it was not so serious and important that it was worth being recorded in the Bible in chapter 1. Then Satan said, now this time I want to shake the family. Sometimes when God wants us to really confirm if we are standing with him, he will really do things on the things we treasure the most. The first discussion and the second discussion, it had nothing to do with Job's family. It was purely Job. Sometimes when we pray as Christians, we really do it as ourselves. We pray, yes, on behalf of our families, yes, as divine harvesters, yes, we pray in behalf of our spouses, on behalf of our fiancés, on behalf of our jobs and professional descriptions. Really, yes, you are praying for your workmates so that you have peace and serene environments of operation. Oh yes, that has no problem to do with Satan. But now the problem will really come if your workmates cannot really help Satan to destroy you. If your own family members cannot help Satan to destroy you, that is where Satan begins his problem. If you are praying, yes, but your spouse is not helping Satan to destroy you, That is Satan's problem, because Satan already knows that you have been identified by God to be his upright and faithful servant. Yes, you sing in divine harvesters. Yes, you preach. Yes, you walk all around in the ministry. Yes, you go for missions. Yes, God has identified you as his own servant. But that is not the problem of Satan. Satan has a problem with, is the lady you are dating really interested with Satan to make you fall? So the best thing that Satan knows that at least will shake families is a skin for skin. In our introduction, the preamble, that is, I said, skin symbolizes our beauty. And we really feel good when we have nice skin. You know, when people always compliment, oh my, you have a nice skin, you really blush and say, oh, thank you. Oh, and you feel like, yeah, I have the best skin. So even if, you know, for some of us who really used to go and fetch firewood, when you were fetching firewood, it's just during those days you were still young. But when you really feel there was this tree called nyabende. Nyabende was so funny that when you want to see when it is dry or not, you have to scratch it's you know, the xylem and the phloem tissues, whichever the things, and you try to see if it is really watery or it is dry. So in the process of scratching, it can really scratch you as well. And there was this other thing called matata. When you hear people say you are matata, the matata thing, you know, it's this type of a tree which has some thorns which are bending, you know, and curved, and they can really help you to tear your skin in a form of operation that doesn't need any other anesthetic, and you really have to not go to sleep, but you will cry for a little while. So you really feel like your skin is really destroyed. For us, when we really see any blood from our skin, we really feel like we are finished completely. Well, thank God we didn't have girlfriends during those days. If it was these days, we will have cried. Now, Satan knew that Job was a handsome man. And then Satan knew Job's wife was happy to have a handsome man whose skin was one of the most, let me say, beautiful or handsome or the nice skin around. So this time, Satan was specific on the trouble he wanted to bring in Job's life. Friends, do you know that the Bible is not just written as a storybook? Do you know that these things that occurred in the Bible are true reflections of our lives? If you did know, now you know. These things, sometimes, when we really bring them in our lives, God still to date can dramatize afflictions in our lives using the very Satan. Don't tell me that the Satan God spoke to, who attended a meeting of God's people, even now here, we might be having this meeting, but Satan is present here with us. And just thinking, this pastor who thinks now he can really speak about me so much, I'm waiting for him after this, and I have to bring him trouble. It's all right. Listen, Satan will always be specific on the troubles he wants to bring for you. This time, Satan just told God, skin for skin. The next time, if it is education for education, this your servant thinks he has a degree or she has a degree. Now that's why, you know, anakuabudu Mungu because of the degree. Just try to shake the degree. Just try to shake the academic life. That person will stop coming to divine harvesters. Just shake the spouse, you know, the girlfriend. Wacha tu achapa yeye heartbreak kidogo. Utaona huyu mtu ataacha kuabudu Mungu hadi atakuja aseme, unajua mimi siku hizi divine harvesters sipendi. Pengine alipata girlfriend hapa ama pengine alipata boyfriend. You just try that. Or wealth for wealth, we kataza tu ye kazi, utaona ataacha kukuabudu. Satan can be specific, not to waste God's time, because he knows what God is. So when it came to touching Job's skin, God gave a permission. The very first thing that Satan rose into was bringing a boil. But this time, Satan even added bone and flesh. I will not speak much about bone. I will not speak much about the flesh. But I will still just focus on the skin for today. Now, when Job's wife saw the boils and now Job's skin changing, I think she said, "This is not my tall, dark, and handsome Job. This is not my hubby. This is not my darling sweet baby that I crushed on and we produced with 10 cute babies. No. And that is what brings us to the introduction of chapter 2, verses 9. Then said his wife unto him, dost thou still retain thine integrity? Curse God and die. You know, now what now hurts this woman the more? Our children are gone. We have not yet healed. And then I thought I will still really make this man at least. We really have to sleep and have some skin for skin in the night and then really have some more babies. But now again, there are these boils in the skin. Now he is not even attractive and sexually attractive. So what does really God mean for us? Curse God and die. Satan was like, yes, skin for skin. A man shall give all that he has. Now this time, the main target of Satan was Job, did not falter, neither insult God. Friends, from the story of Job, we learn that oftentimes in our lives, when Satan has already dramatized every scenario of afflictions that we have, when Satan has already tied the most precious things that we hold and we behold, it doesn't matter what other people will say about our God. But it matters about the stance that we hold with our God that will make us rise again and say in the voice of Job in continuity that, oh yes, one thing I know, my Redeemer lives, for he will come down for me in the latter days. Yes, the spouses might leave us. Today, I might be handsome. Tomorrow, I have a skin disease. They no longer love the handsome you. Today, you might be having money. Tomorrow the money is gone. They no longer love you. Ladies, today you are having a nice body and you really look at yourself and you really feel like, oh yes, I am the one, the choice of ladies. Even if we are in any singing group, men will always approach me first. It's all right. Satan doesn't have problem with that. But the problem is, he has with you, is that has God marked you to say, my daughter, so and so, you are upright and you are serving me in true and honest spirit, then now Satan dramatizes himself. Satan will make himself present for a discussion with God about you. And then Satan will be very specific that yes, she is beautiful, skin for skin. A man shall leave all that he has and betray God. When you are no longer beautiful and beauty fades, you look at your life and say, no, this is not me whom I used to be. Men sometimes will have led you to series of abortions, and frustrating lives. You only come to realize when it is now too late. And sometimes you look at yourself and you wonder what your future will really behold. Remember one thing, God knew when that was happening, and Satan knew when it was beginning. It was just some game of a skin for skin. Now, what will matter is not what you lost, but what will matter is in whom do you host your faith again for what you lost. Again, you can say, I still stand with you, God. I will not falter. Yes, these are human problems. Yes, I fell. These are troubles of this world. Yes, I fell. Because Job says in chapter 14, verses 1, that a man born of a woman is of few days and full of troubles. Yes, God. These are the troubles that I've gone through. Yes, Satan knew and you knew. But now, dear Lord, I still stand to confirm that despite the afflictions of this world, yes, I might lose everything else, God, but I have learned from the story of Job that yes, you always know the troubles we go through. Let us finalize with that instance in the book of 2 Corinthians, chapter 12, verses 7 to 15. Paul's letter to the adulterous Corinthians, adulterous Corinthians, these people were so adulterous that, it was really hard to plant a church in them. Paul would really try to evangelize to them, but they were seemingly so adamant, but all the same, Paul was talented in ministry. So he tells them about his own affliction. He introduces it so funnily That let me read it from the version. I said chapter 12 verses 7 to 15. And lest I should be exalted above measure through the abundance of the revelations, there was given to me a thorn in the flesh, the messenger of Satan to buffet me, lest I should be exalted above measure. At least God gave Paul the grace to see that the thorn in the flesh was a messenger of Satan. Theologians will say a lot of dictions and descriptions about the thorn on the flesh will come, but all the same, just like in poetry, we always have the we call it maana ya juu na maana batili. We call it the superficial meaning and the connotative meaning. So let us pick it from the superficial aspect of it, what it really, what it really portrays from outside. The thorn symbolizes a pain, a stimuli. Where is this stimuli directed to? The flesh. And where do we pass when we reach our flesh? Now that brings you to the structure of the skin, from the dermis, from the epidermis, from the dermis and endodermis, all through the composition of the flesh. You have to start with the skin. That brings us to the story of Job. Chapter 2 verses 4. And Satan answered and said, skin for skin, yeah, all that a man has, he will give for his life. At least he will say, if it has to be about pain and afflictions, so be praising God. At least Paul realized that this is a messenger of Satan. So, members, in everything that we do in life, let us always recognize that God is there with us and God is standing with us. So when we are going through pain and afflictions, God will forever stand with us, and let us not let God's will falter in our lives because of the pains that we go through.